Right, so we've got new month, so new subject. So it's the theme. If you wanted to follow this theme, it's winter theme. So I've got a few snow scene pictures here. If you want to use any of these, welcome to use any of these. And I'm thinking perhaps to use this one as a quick demo. So I thought I'd do a demo in acrylics this week, and then perhaps go over to watercolours next week. Just because I haven't done any watercolour demos for a while. Last month I did quite a lot of oils, so I'll do some acrylics and watercolours this month. Obviously, if you've got other projects you want to finish off or you'd rather do, that's absolutely fine as well. There's something to do. Yeah, so I'm thinking of doing that. So I brought in a few pictures to show you, just a few of my winter scenes. So these are all snow, well, mostly snow scenes that I've done in the past. This was painted quite a long time ago from looking out of a window. It was actually very cold in the house, but I was looking out the window of the house that my grandma used to live in years ago. This one was Hadley Castle. So this was a kind of quick painting I did of Hadley Castle on quite an overcast, snowy day. And that is one from over the road from where I live, South Churchill Gardens, with the kids playing to the organs. So that's that one. And this painting I did on Saturday. This is of the Victorian Albert, which is what I had to show you. So it's kind of autumny, wintry sort of scene. A few wintry ones. Right. So yeah, I wasn't quite sure what to demonstrate today. I might use a couple of these photos. It can be quite difficult to kind of get the. I'm going to work on paper just because I only happen to have one piece of board with me today, which I haven't really liked. I'm going to start probably just sketching in where the trees would be. So this is probably very much how I would work if I was just kind of working on the spot. So I'll just get something sketched in there to start with. So that it's mostly greyish tones, so it's got that bit higher up. And I'm actually going to just draw out with a pencil roughly where I want the snow line to be. So it's going off something like that. A little bit of a slope there. We've got trees here. Just drawing in very lightly so that I don't, have lines coming through. Most of the sky, most of the sky is showing through the trees, so I think I'll probably want to get the sky in first, really. So let's mix the sky colour. Got some whites. So I'm going to paint this in really what I call a kind of oil painting approach, where you're using white paint and mixing this in. On this photo, the light is quite bright. It's quite a nice sunny day. So we can just thin the paint a tiny bit just to get that to flow. But so that tree is fairly dense, so I'm going to leave that quite dense. But this one I can see right through. So give that clear. And a tiny bit of a crimsony colour mixed in with that. It's got a slightly pinkish tinge over there, so it's just making some variations. I think it's important when you're particularly painting with acrylics, a big area like a sky, you need a nice big brush. Otherwise, you're going to get very overworked looking paintwork. So, and then kind of blending as I go, so some slightly lighter tones there. Probably want the snow to be the brightest bit, so in a way I don't particularly want the sky very, very white. Let me see, so this bit here wants to be fairly light. And if I work quickly, I can do a certain amount of blending. If I leave it any longer, that will just dry so quickly. So, a little bit around here, pop that in there. Move that over. Right, so leave that at that because it's already starting to dry. Just get another brush and just work in some of these trees. In my other photo, these trees in the background are a little bit lighter. I think it's probably just different lighting, but I want to keep that lightness just so that when I paint the figures in, they'll stand out. So I'm just going to go for a lighter grey in the distance. So I'll be about here. And being paper, it's quite absorbent, so it's sucking up the paint quite a bit. That's down to that sort of level. I won't paint right the way across, but just paint a passage through really from the background to the foreground. Make the grey a little bit darker, so using some browns. So I've got a bit of burnt umber and a bit of raw umber, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. That makes a nice kind of rich, slightly purply grey. That's a little bit dark, let's go in between that. And so this tree here, that's slightly wet, the sky still, so I can slightly blend that to get a softer edge. And then that's dried already, so I can already go over and make some sort of slightly dry brush marks. So kind of do this kind of slightly dragged dry brush where it's picking up the texture of the paper a little bit. So rather than try and paint every twig in, I sometimes just try and create a little bit of texture. So if some of this is, and I can demonstrate it here a little bit easier. So I can just get some paint on a brush and keep the brush fairly flat. I don't want too much paint on there, but just enough to just kind of leave some. So doing that sort of thing can sometimes give the impression of twigs on branches in the distance. So that sort of, and that works best over once the layer behind is dried. Which working with acrylics, it's going to dry really quickly anyway, so you can do that. So it's like an impression of the tree rather than painting all the branches and twigs in. So that can be this little bit here, and then this one I'll work over the top. So let's do that now. Just go for a slightly smaller brush now. I want to sketch this one in. I want to go a tiny bit darker so that stands forward. So I'll use, again, similar colours, browns and blues, and a little bit of the warm brown, the umber. And I find with a smallish bristle brush, if I keep that quite flat to the board or the paper, I can then just kind of quite carefully just direct that in different ways and sort of draw into that. Now this is a little bit wet still, it'd be better really if that had dried off. Right, I can get some of that to stick. And possibly a slightly smaller brush might work better, give me a little bit more definition. So just getting the main branches and tree trunks, and again you can get some quite fine lines just using a brush in that size, a little bit flatter. Let's go for another darker tree trunk next to it. That's here. It's just getting enough tonal difference. That might be too much, and maybe that's not quite enough. Just go over that a little bit. Just break it up a bit. Could also get some slightly smaller brushes out. Smaller that would work with that. This, yeah, that one's get that. That one's a little bit more worn down, so that should be able to get some slightly finer marks with that. Slightly thin the paint, a tiny bit of water, just get that to flow. Yeah, so I'm getting a bit more of a fluid, fine line with that one. Looking better. And again, I can just do that dry brush effect to get the feeling of the twigs. Right, just dry that. So it's just a bit wet now. Any questions so far? All good. Right, let's just try that. So just a bit of kitchen roll and then back to the grey. We'll just try that there. Maybe a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter in tone. Something like that.
Paul, when you were doing the sky, you said you were getting a bit of pink in the background in the sky. What
Yeah.
colour did you actually use to mix it with?
A little bit of pink, yeah, I've used it. I think it's that one there, and I think it's alizarin crimson. So it's something a bit on the purpley side.
Oh, right.
I can't quite remember what I put in there. This one's ultramarine, but I actually used some cerulean to start with. That gave me that nice bright, fresh hue of the cerulean. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, just using the brush almost like on its side, just picking up the surface. That's a nice sort of impressionistic way to create the sense of a tree there. That might be a bit heavy. And then we've got some shadows on the snow. So go back to this bluey colour, pretty much the same as the sky, slightly greyer. A tiny bit of water that, just get that flow. So they're coming, we've got some coming down here. I mean, because it's white, I could possibly use the white of the paper if I wanted to. These shadows were all kind of going in this way, because I had trees behind me and the sun was actually behind me when I took this photo, which I quite liked. And I remember I did do a painting from this spot with all the kids, from toboggans, which I don't have anymore, that one. But that was quite nice. So sort of kind of getting these slightly bluey shadows. So perhaps block in a bigger area, a bit like that, and then get a finer brush. Yeah, try that one, that'll work. Just get a sense of some of these twigs, shadows of the twigs. And the last bit would just be to put some, I mean I could put white in there, or just pop a few people in there. Okay, it's a scene that needs a few people. Yeah, so this one, and they're all, in this photo, they're all fairly dark clothes. So it's got it quite dark. This is actually a black and a little bit of blue and red. Get that nice and dark. Kind of suggest a few figures in the background. And some are on toboggans, just roughing in a shape. Making them slightly bigger than they are in the photo, just give the sense of being a bit closer to. And a little bit of red or orange. Yeah. And then just fine bits, just maybe just a few footprints and things like that, and a few tracks and footprints, just to break it up a little bit. That's perhaps a little bit too dark, a bit lighter. That's a better tone. So kind of pitching the tone so that it's a suggestion of textures without it dominating too much. That's a few tracks down here. Okay, quick 15 minutes of logging. So that's the sort of thing, that's the sort of way I tend to work out.